This creature weighs as much as a small car, half a ton of muscle, skin, and heavy bone. And yet it has no natural enemies. Not a shark, not a crocodile, not a killer whale, no one hunts it seriously. It doesn't know how to attack. No teeth to bite, no claws, no venom, no speed. It simply hangs at the surface of the warm water, slowly munching grass for half a day. A creature whose kin swam in these waters when mammoths still roamed the land. And here's the paradox with which this whole story begins. An animal that nothing in the wild can kill is rapidly becoming extinct. It's killed by a non-predator, and we kill it. And the strangest thing is, most often we do this without even wishing it harm. Today we'll examine the manatee from top to bottom. What is it really? Why does its closest relative walk on land with a trunk and tusses? Why is its body structure different from that of any other animal? And what tragedy binds it to the frigid Russian waters? Stay until the end. Towards the middle, you'll encounter a creature larger than a killer whale, one that no longer exists on Earth. And at the end, I'll answer a question that has long puzzled scientists. How did an animal that can run, defend itself, or feel fear even manage to survive to this day? Keep that question in mind. Let's start with the name because it's misleading. The manatee is called a sea cow, but it's not a cow, and it lives far from exclusively in the sea. It's not related to whales, seals, or dolphins, although it spends its entire life in the water. Its closest living relative on land is the elephant. It sounds absurd, but it's true, confirmed by both anatomy and genes. About 50 million years ago, manatees and elephants shared a common ancestor, a small herbivorous mammal. One branch remained on land and became the largest land animals on the planet. The other took to the water and evolved into this. A round, slow, serene creature with paddles instead of hind legs. Scientists even found a transitional link of an ancient walking manatee the size of a pig with 4 fully functional legs, which lived a double life as behemoth, and its ribs already contained a clue to its future: heavy, dense bones. This branch then sank deeper and deeper into the water. The hind legs disappeared, the body lengthened and rounded, and the tail transformed into a paddle. So the manatee and the elephant did not evolve from each other. They are siblings who diverged 50 million years ago. One went to conquer land, the other returned to the water, and their relationship is revealed in the details. The manatee's flexible upper lip functions almost like a short trunk, and each half moves independently, grasping plants. Its front flippers have nails like an elephant's toenails, and the females, just like elephants, feed their single calf milk from a flipper nipple. Scientists have named the entire order to which it belongs, along with the dugong sirens, and this name conceals a separate mystery to which we will return. Now let's look inside this body because it is designed in a way that no one else has. The manatee's bones are incredibly dense and heavy, almost like stone. They act as ballast, like a diver's weight belt, and the animal hangs calmly in the water, neither floating nor sinking. But this comes at a price. The manatee has almost none of the thick layer of fat that keeps whales and seals warm. Remember this detail. Later, it will almost lead to its death. There is one more oddity. Its lungs extend not along the sides, but along the entire spine, from the neck almost to the tail. By redistributing air within them, the manatee smoothly changes the depth and tilt of its body like a submarine filling and venting its ballast tanks. Half a ton of live weight hangs in the water as effortlessly as if it weighs nothing. It also regulates its depth with gases in its intestines, where specialized microbes tirelessly ferment grass, releasing methane and storing gas. It rises, releases, and descends. Scientists aren't kidding when they say constipation is a serious problem for the manatee. When digestive problems arise, it sometimes can't dive properly and floats tilted to one side. Its entire body is a finely tuned system designed to hover effortlessly in the water for days on end. The manatee moves mesmerizingly. Its main engine is its wide, flat, paddle-shaped tail. One leisurely stroke, and the half-ton carcass glides forward without a single jerk. Hidden within the front flippers is a skeleton strikingly similar to a human hand. And with these flippers, the animal does things you wouldn't expect from a sea giant. It literally walks along the bottom, pulling itself forward, pressing grass to its mouth with them, scratching itself, feeling the world around it, even hugging its fellow manatees. When meeting, manatees rub muzzles and clasp each other with their flippers. Incidentally, the flippers are easy to distinguish between the species. The Amazon manatee from the rivers of South America has no nails at all. And now one of those details that makes it worth watching to the end. Almost every mammal has 7 vertebrae in its neck. Humans, cats, even giraffes have exactly 7. This is one of the most steadfast rules in nature. Well, the manatee breaks it. It has only 6 vertebrae in its neck. Of all the land's animals, only 2 break this rule: the sloth and the manatee. And the consequences are clear. The manatee can't turn its head at all. To look sideways, it twists its entire body, all 600 kilograms cello. Unfortunately, this same clumsiness will one day work against it when an enemy that has never been here before enters its waters. Open its mouth? Another oddity. No incisors, no canines, only flat molars deep in its mouth. With them, it spends all day grinding the tough grass that grows on the bottom mixed with sand, and this sand wears down its teeth like sandpaper. In any other animal, these would wear down in a few years, and the animal would die of starvation. In the manatee, nature has found a brilliant solution. Its teeth move. New molars erupt in the back and slowly creep forward about a centimeter a month, while the worn ones in the front fall out. And so, throughout its life, without stopping, an animal that wears down its teeth every day is never toothless because an endless stream of new ones is always replacing them. Why such indestructible teeth? Because it eats almost all the time while awake. The manatee is a strict vegetarian, one of the few marine mammals. No fish, only algae and grass. In a day, it eats about 1/10 of its own body weight. For an animal weighing that's up to 50 kilograms of plants per day. To process such a mountain of greenery, it needs a special intestine, and if stretched out, it would stretch almost 45 meters longer than the body of a blue whale, the largest creature in the history of the planet. Therefore, the manatee spends 7-8 hours a day feeding, sorting through stems with a forked lip with stiff, sensitive bristles. It is neither a hunter nor a predator. He's a living lawnmower of warm rivers and bays, slow, calm, and completely harmless. And he has an unexpected need. Even living in salty seawater, he regularly needs fresh water to drink. That's why he's so often drawn to river, mouths, and springs. Despite his aquatic life, he breathes air, like us. Rising to the surface, he sticks out only 2 nostrils. A short, powerful inhale. The nostrils close, and the animal descends. In one such breath, he renews almost 90% of the air in his lungs, whereas we breathe only 1/10 during normal breathing. Resting on the bottom, he can hold his breath for 15 or even 20 minutes. Rising to the surface for breath in his sleep without waking. When his eyes are small, it seems he can't move quickly, and usually that's true. It swims at a leisurely pace of about 5.88 kilometers per hour, conserving every ounce of strength. Strength. But when startled, it can make a short spurt and accelerate to about 24 kilometers per hour, 3 times faster than normal, though only for a couple of seconds. Its half-ton weight and lack of real fat reserves quickly take their toll. The manatee is simply not built for pursuit. Grass doesn't run away, and its warm waters have never been invaded. In this world without threats, it has become a trusting giant, and it senses the world in an unexpected way. Its vision, despite its small eyes, is quite good. It distinguishes shapes, sizes, and even colors. It hears low sounds well, although it has no external ears. Only tiny openings on the sides of its head. But its main sense organ is its entire body. From snout to tail, it is covered with thousands of sensitive whisker hairs. Each hair is a tiny living antenna. The manatee senses the water from a distance, sensing the slightest movement and current. The animal is in murky water where almost nothing can be seen. This sense replaces its eyes, and scientists compare it to the sensitivity of fingertips. Now let's return to those heavy bones and lack of fat. Here it's a matter of life and death. The manatee is a tropical animal, and its enormous body without a warming layer of fat mercilessly loses heat. As soon as the water cools below about 20 degrees Celsius, it experiences cold stress. Its metabolism slows, digestion fails, and ulcers appear on its skin. An animal that no predator would kill can simply freeze to death in water that would seem merely cool to us. And this is where the most astonishing thing about its behavior begins. Every winter, manatees from all over the area flock to warm springs gushing from underground, where the water maintains a balmy temperature year-round. Dozens and hundreds of animals gather there. In one Florida park, nearly 1,000 manatees were once counted huddled in the warm water on a single day. 1,000 rounded gray bodies huddled close together. They are saved not only by natural springs, but also by warm water discharges from power plants, to which the animals have become accustomed over decades. And as soon as the water warms, they disperse hundreds of kilometers along the coast, and some swim far north in the summer. Remember these warm refuges. You will soon understand why they have become both a salvation and a trap for the manatee. And of gentle giants gather in winter, humans come. Florida's warm springs have become a mecca. Thousands of tourists glide over the water in kayaks and descend masked to meet wild manatees. Because manatees aren't afraid, they're curious. They swim up to people, peer into their masks, and offer their backs. There's not a drop of aggression in them. And this trusting nature is both their charm and their misfortune. Authorities strictly regulate encounters. Chasing, grabbing, hand-feeding, waking, sleeping, manatees, and separating mother and baby are prohibited. After all, for us, this is a touching attraction, but for the manatee, winter is a struggle for survival. And every fright that drives them from their warm spot into the cold can cost them their life. A surprising paradox. An animal that naturally approaches people turns out to be defenseless precisely in the face of human attention. Now about the most tender part, the offspring. The mother carries her cub for about 13 months, and almost always only one baby is born, weighing around 30 kilograms. The first thing the mother does is nudge her baby toward the surface for its first breath. Then begins a long, close bond. The baby nurses for about 2 years, clinging to the surface, her nipple tucked away in an unexpected place at the very base of her flipper. The two are almost inseparable. They rub against each other, embrace with flippers, and constantly communicate in thin squeaks and trills. And the baby recognizes its mother's voice among hundreds of others. For 2 whole years, she patiently teaches it everything: where to find warm water in winter, where the best meadows grow, which routes to take, devoting everything to this single baby. And here I ask the very question. An animal that gives birth so rarely, that is slow, defenseless, and trustingly reaches out to danger, how did it even survive for 50 million years and not disappear long ago? Oh no. Keep this question in mind. By nature, the manatee is a solitary creature with no stable pod or leader, but a serene solitude. Where there's warmth and plenty of food, these animals graze peacefully side by side, and during mating season, males circle a single female for weeks, jostling without bloodshed. They live long lives, reaching 40 or even 60 years. The famous manatee named Snooty lived to almost 69 years old, making it into the Book of Records as the oldest in the world. These animals were long considered stupid, slow, harmless, with a smooth brain lacking deep convolutions. But experiments have revealed otherwise. Manatees are excellent learners, distinguishing shapes and colors, remembering routes hundreds of kilometers long, and their learning ability rivals that of dolphins, long considered the epitome of marine intelligence. They have excellent long-term memory. They recognize specific people and their own kind, and clearly discern who is kind to them and who is dangerous. And it swims toward a person not out of stupidity, but out of curiosity, out of a calm desire to understand what strange creature has appeared in its water. Behind its clumsy appearance lies a quiet, patient, and memorizing mind. There are actually 3 species of manatees: the American, also known as the West Indian, the heroes of Florida Springs, which easily transitions from saltwater to freshwater. The Amazonian lives only in freshwater, in the Amazon River, and never ventures out to sea. And the African, the most mysterious, hides in the murky rivers of West Africa. There is also a close relative, the dugong. It is easy to distinguish. The manatee has a rounded tail like a shovel, while the dugong is forked like a whale. And they all have one thing in common. Their numbers are decreasing everywhere, and almost everywhere the reason is the same. But first I will tell you what I promised, the story of mermaids and of a giant who is no more. For centuries, sailors have told tales of mermaids, and this legend has a very real, if very unromantic source. The manatee and the dugong. Imagine a weary sailor. In murky water, he spots a large creature bobbing near the surface, holding a baby swallow in its arms, clutching it to its chest. And imagination fills in the rest. Ptolemaic Columbus himself in 1493 recorded seeing three, added that they weren't as beautiful as they were painted. He almost certainly saw manatees, and an echo of the legend reached science. The group was named Sirens, after the sea maidens of Greek myth. Thus, the good-natured mustachioed giant became the prototype for the most captivating sea myth. But the myth also had a terrifying side. When people saw meat and blubber in these creatures, tragedy struck. And now comes the very creature for whom I asked you to stay. The manatees had a relative named Steller's sea cow, and compared to her, today's manatees are mere babies. It reached a length of up to 10 meters and weighed up to 10 tons, larger than an adult male killer whale, the terror of all oceans. It was one of the largest mammals of the recent past. But it lived not in the warm tropics, but in the icy waters off the Commander Islands, far to the east of Russia, between Kamchatka and Alaska. To survive this cold, it grew a colossal body and thick skin, rough as the bark of an old tree, and grazed on seaweed at the very surface, unable to dive properly. For thousands of years, it lived without knowing a single enemy. Then, in 1741, a wrecked Russian ship from the expedition of Commander Vitus Bering washed ashore on these islands, saying, German naturalist Georg Steller, the first and only scientist to observe these giants alive, came ashore. He noted their gentleness and loyalty. Her fellow cows did not abandon her when she was wounded. They surrounded her, trying to help her. For starving sailors, these animals became a lifesaver. One provided meat for a weekend, the crew survived. But this encounter cost the cow everything. Upon returning, the sailors told of herds of unafraid giants, whose meat was delicious and whose fat was valuable, and fur hunters who hunted sea otters flocked to the islands. Along the way, they replenished their supplies with that very cow. Killing it was terrifyingly easy. It could neither dive nor escape. It didn't hide, but simply lay near the surface, trusting as befits an animal without enemies. It was discovered in 1741, and by 1768, just 27 years later, it was completely gone. It took 27 years, less than a human lifetime, to wipe out an animal larger than a killer whale. It was the first marine mammal in history to be completely exterminated by humans in a single generation of hunters. Understand what this means. One generation of hunters was enough for humans to forever destroy this gentle giant that had survived the ice ages. Not because of climate, not because of predators, not because of disease, simply because it was large, peaceful, trusting, and incapable of fearing us. The same traits that make today's manatee so touching were the undoing of its enormous northern cousin: slowness, harmlessness, and a lack of fear of humans. The story of the Steller sea cow is more than just a sad fact from a textbook. It is a warning written over 2 centuries ago. Now look at the manatee again. It is also slow, trusting, and defenseless. It narrowly escaped the fate of its relative, but the danger remains. It has merely changed its appearance. Today, it is not killed by a harpoon. The first threat is boats, or rather their propellers. The manatee is slow, stays close to the surface, and does not have time to recognize the whine of a motor as a threat. Every year, hundreds of animals are killed or maimed by collisions with the ships. Sharp propellers leave deep scars on their backs. These scars are so numerous and so unique that scientists identify individual manatees by their patterns. Almost every adult Florida manatee has marks from boat encounters. An entire species we have learned to distinguish by the wounds we inflict. The second, more subtle threat is starvation. The underwater meadows on which manatees feed are dying. Fertilizer runoff creates algae that cloud the water and block light, and without light, seagrass dies. In the early 2020s, the algae in one Florida lagoon disappeared almost completely, and starvation set in. In 2021 and 2022, nearly 2,000 manatees died, an all-time record, more than 1 in 5 animals in the population. People had to manually dump tons of lettuce into the water so that the starving animals could survive until spring. Wild sea giants feeding on lettuce from our hands because we've poisoned their own meadows. That's the picture of the entire problem. Added to this are threats the manatee doesn't see at all. First, toxic red tides. Microscopic algae release a powerful neurotoxin that accumulates in the grass and water, causing the poisoned animal to lose coordination, unable to lift its head to breathe, and drown. Second, sharp cold waves which, due to the changing climate, come ever more suddenly and kill animals within days that haven't had time to find warmer conditions. And warm shelters are becoming fewer. Some of them aren't springs at all, but warm discharges from aging power plants that will one day shut down, while real springs are becoming less and less abundant because humans are pumping out groundwater. Manatees are being squeezed from all sides, rotors from above, hunger from below, poison in the water, cold outside, and disappearing shelter. Where are we? The main population, the Florida one, currently numbers almost 10,000 individuals, and authorities have left it listed not as endangered, but as a step lower, as threatened. Many argue, considering this too optimistic, the grasslands are still in poor condition, and another plague could recur, and other subspecies are in worse shape. The Antillean manatee is rapidly declining in many places, and only about 250 animals remain at Puerto Rico Island, a tiny, isolated handful on the very edge. 10,000 sounds like a lot, but this is a species that gives birth to one calf every few years and needs decades to recover from the blow. Moku veri. For such an animal, even 10,000 is a far more fragile number than it seems. But this is not a story without hope. Where some people injure the manatee, others heal. Rescue centers operate across Florida where emaciated, frostbitten, and propeller-injured animals are brought. They are nursed back to health for months, treated, fattened, and then released back into the wild. In just one recent year, one large center released 26 rescued manatees. To catch an animal for rescue, dozens of people wade into the water with large, soft nets to carefully hold the half-ton carcass. Slow-run zones are being graded along rivers. Fertilizers are being removed from the water, seagrass is being replanted, and artificial warm shelters are being built for the winter. None of this solves the problem entirely, but all of this buys time. The story of the stellar sea cow ended in silence. The story of the manatee is still being written, and for the first time, we are writing it not with a harpoon, but with a rescue net and a shovel planting seagrass. And now let's return to the question from the beginning. How did such a slow, defenseless species survive for 50 million years? The answer is simple. It survived because for millions of years, it simply had nothing to die from. In the warm, calm waters, it had no enemies, and evolution had given it no speed, no armor, no fangs, not even a fear instinct. All of that would have been superfluous. Its strength lay in rest, in a slow, peaceful life without haste. This was the secret of its long existence. And this also became its tragedy. The very same defenseless meekness that had preserved it for 50 million years suddenly turned into fatal weakness. We had barely entered its world. Stellar sea cow did not survive its 27-year encounter with humans, and only its bones remained in museums. The manatee is still surviving that encounter. For now, it is still here, rising to breathe every few minutes, looking trustingly into the eyes of a human. The manatee still silently cuts grass on the bottom of warm rivers, just as it did when mammoths still walked the land. This animal, which has seen ice ages and outlived its own giant relatives, is now entirely dependent on one species on this planet, us. We lost stellar sea cow because we didn't know it and didn't care about it. We know the manatee. We understand what kills it. We know how to treat its wounds, restore its meadows, and keep it warm in winter. For the first time in history, we have everything we need to avoid repeating that old mistake. Only one question remains. Will we want it? Tell us in the comments which fact about the manatee surprised you most, the warm springs, its walking teeth, or the fate of its giant brother from the Russian north. The more you debate and share in the comments, the more people will see this video. Also, tell us what new animal you'd like to learn about. If you found this story interesting, like it and subscribe to Animal World. Thank you for watching to the end.